we have fraction, denominator. You should all know numerator and denominator from when we work on fractions. Dollar and decimal point. Some of you still are confused when it comes to knowing how to say a number that contains a decimal. Okay? And whenever there's a decimal, the decimal point, whenever you're saying it, always says what word? And. Now here, we're going to say 0 and, then you say, what's after the decimal? 6. And then you finally give it its place value label. Tenths, hundredths. 0 and 6 hundredths. Or you could just call this 6 hundredths since there's no whole number in front of the decimal. Okay? If there were to be, say, a 1, a whole number in front of the decimal rather than a 0, then you would say 1 and 6 hundredths. All right? But if it's just a 0, you can leave it off and say 6 hundredths. But whereas whole numbers, everything that goes to the left starts with a 1s, then a 10s, then a hundreds. Okay? A decimal does not. After the decimal, we start with tenths, then hundredths. There's no ones, right? And you know that because that doesn't make sense when you even say it, right? So tenths, hundredths, thousands.
How are percents related to fractions and decimals? Think about this question during the lesson. Many states charge sales tax on items you buy. Sales tax is often named as a percent. It compares a number to 100.
It says Indiana sales tax is 6%. I thought it was 7.
I thought it was 6, but okay.
Maybe it is 6. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's 10, well that means you're, if it's...
It does change though, okay? But, so we see n percent, this is the same formula we saw the other day. N percent equals n over 100.
How is Indiana's sales tax expressed as a fraction? Let's find out.
Sorry.
Okay.
So, back to this. How is Indiana sales tax expressed as a fraction? Let's find out. If it's 6%, what should be written as a fraction? Macy. Macy, you should know it like this. If their sales tax is 6%, what is that as a fraction?
600.
Very good. 600. 6 over 100. Is 6 over 100 in simplest form? No.
To change a percent to a fraction, first remove the percent sign and write the number over a denominator 100. Then simplify if possible.
We said
What is 6 100ths simplified?
this is not simplified. Divided by 2, you get 3 over 50. Lily.
The fraction 6 100ths simplifies to 3 50ths.
Okay, so this means that the fraction 6 over 100 is 6%, but 3 over 50 is also 6% because they are all equal.
Now let's change a fraction to a percent.
Okay, same thing. We have 3 over 50 here. We need the denominator to be 100. What do we do to 50 to make it 100? Times it by 2. So what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. I'll have to take 3 times 2 to get 6. Then I'll have 6 over 100, which is where I started, and that will tell me 6%.
To change a fraction to a percent, first divide the numerator by the denominator. What is the quotient?
Okay, now this is another way that you can do it. We see that this means 3 divided by 50. 3 divided by 50. When you actually do that, you get this decimal. Okay? Now, to change that to a percent, and I think I showed you guys this the other day, to change it to a percent, you times it by 100. Well, guess what? You can just move your decimal. Times it by 10, times it by 100. You are at 6%.
The quotient is 6/100. First, change the resulting decimal to a fraction with a denominator 100. Then change it to a percent. How is Indiana's sales tax expressed as a decimal? Let's find out. To change a percent to a decimal, remove the percent sign and move the decimal point 2 places to the left. Indiana's sales tax as a fraction and a decimal are 3/50 and 6/100. By working through this problem, you learned how percents, fractions, and decimals are related.
Alright, this is a lot like that number 7 from your assignment that we checked over. So let's do the guided practice together. You should have your book open to the page and have a notebook ready.
No, this is simple, but I kind of hope we can give us guided practice.
No, never forget. Alright, guided practice. You should have a notebook open, page 400. Write the percent, the decimal, and the fraction in simplest form, represented by the shaded part of the 100 grid. We know then, this is called a 100 grid. How many squares are there in this thing? How many, Corey? It's called a 100 grid, Corey. 100, thank you. Yes, there are 100 squares in a 100 grid. So, let's go ahead and do our fraction first, okay? It's over 100. There are 100 squares total. How many are shaded? I'm thinking it looks about half, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, and there are 10 of rows here. So 5 times 10 is 50. 50 over 100 are shaded. 50 hundredths are shaded. Is that in simplest form?
No.
No, it is not. What can I divide both numerator and denominator by, Bella? Divide it by 50. When I do that, I get 1 over 2, 1/2. We did it as a fraction in simplest form. Very good. Now we need a decimal and we need a percent. Percent is the easiest. 1/2 here, or 50 over 100, is what percent? Austin, 50%. Now I need to put this as a decimal. This says 50 hundredths. How do I write 50 hundredths as a decimal? Dylan?
0 and 50 hundredths.
Okay, 0 point, and now I want you to tell me what should I write next?
50.
Let's see if that's correct. 0 and you say everything that's after it together. 50, and now your label, tenths, hundred. 0 and 50 hundredths. You are correct. Okay, so we did it as a percent, a fraction, and a decimal. Very good. Again, for your quiz tomorrow, though, they may just have this here fraction and say, what percent is 3/4? Are you going to know how to do that? How do you do that? How do you do that, Kennedy? 3/4. How do I figure out what that is as a percent? You don't know? That's okay. We're doing this now so that you know. Look here, Kennedy. If I look here, do you know what percent 50 over 100 is? What percent is that? Do you know what percent 3 over 4 is? No. Why? What's the difference? There must be some difference because you said 50 over 100, you know that's 50%, but 3 over 4, you don't know what percent that is. Why? Why is it different? It's smaller numbers. You're right. I don't know. I don't know without looking. What's different, Austin? Okay, don't say what the percent is. But I need to know, because we need to know. Kennedy's not the only one in here who doesn't know how to do this. I know this, okay? 50 over 100. Kennedy can look at this fraction and say 50%. But when she looks at 3/4, she can't tell me what percent that is. And most of you can't. And that's fine. You shouldn't be able to. But why? What's keeping us from knowing what percent that is, Gabe? Right. A percent has got to be, it's a rule. It's a rule. Percent has to be over 100, out of 100. And so we know what this is because guess what? It's already over 100. But I don't know what this is because it's not over 100. So what do I have to do now, Kennedy? I know it needs to be 100. I have to times it, right? I need the denominator to be 100. So what do I have to take 4 times to get 100? 4 times what gives me 100? Aiden. 25. Think of quarters. 25, 50, 75, $1. $1 is 100 cents. Okay? So I have to take that times 25. What I do to the bottom, to the denominator, I do to the top, to the numerator. 3 times 25. Well, I can come over here and work it out if I don't know it, but I like to think of quarters, because I know quarters are 25 cents. If I have 3 quarters, how many cents do I have? 75 cents. So now, Kennedy, can you look at that and tell me what 3/4 is as a percent? Yeah, 75%. You will have to know how to do this for your quiz tomorrow. Promise you. Okay? All right. Let's go to the next one. Out of 100 again. So I'll do my fraction first. Only have 2 rows. We know each row is 10, right? So that means 20 are shaded. Is this in simplest form, Wyatt Tuggle? 20 over 100? No. I know that because they're both even, so I know that I can go ahead and for sure divide by 2. But what can I divide by, Wyatt? What do you think I can divide it by? 20. 20. If I divide top and bottom by 20, 20 divided by 20 is 1. 100 divided by 20 is 5. 1/5. That's my fraction in simplest form. That's done. Percent and decimal. Percent is easy. We can go back and look. Cammie, what is this as a percent? You got it, girl. 20%. Good job. And the last one, decimal. What is this as a decimal, Bella? I say what's after the decimal? 20 tenths, hundredths. 0 and 20 hundredths. Is 20 hundredths what I wanted? You got it. Very good. You are pros. Do this one on your own on a sticky note. It is your quick check. Raise your hand if you need a sticky note. I'm coming around with them. Put your name on it. Don't forget. It needs to be in simplest form. You're doing exactly what we just did. Is everybody taken care of? Okay. Guys, you can probably look at that because you know that each row is 10. You should probably be able to look at it. You can come close, you can. But probably able to look at it and figure it out.